Hey, I'm Just Bodo, and today I'm going to be giving you a class tier list for Ashes of Creations. This is more geared towards new people that are going to be playing the game for the very first time, and also don't know like what class should I play. In terms of the tier list breakdown, we're going to start with like solo. We'll move to group play, and then we'll move to PvP. Everything will be kind of generalized. I think what I'll do is that with this first tier list, I'll give you like the rough breakdown of like where every class will be for all three if you just want to see the very first part of this. But let's begin. So, in terms of solo ability, Bard, Tank, and Cleric are very strong. Even though these are three support classes, and a lot of people prefer to play DPS. Um, if you want to play in groups, if you want to play PvP, or if you want to play solo, um, they're arguably always S tier, if that makes sense. Sometimes Cleric can be considered below these two because there's a lot more responsibility and pressure on Cleric because they're always getting focused on PvP. They have to be able to multitask, save people's lives, watch people's health bars, and also do the mechanics and stuff like that. So Cleric can be a lot harder in a lot of cases. So it kind of drops down a little bit, but uh, in terms of everything overall, these three are like the trifecta. Solo, you have fighter. Fighter is slightly below these three in solo, and if you're going to, arguably, it's S plus tier in the very early levels, but fighter typically needs a couple levels to really break out and be uber strong. I think Bard, Tank, and Cleric kind of struggle in their few early levels, but this is typically what the scaling looks like once you get like past level 8 or 9. I think it is breakpoint for a lot of classes. Now let's talk about Ranger. Ranger does struggle as solo. They run out of mana very quick. Um, they're pretty much just pure damage and movement. And a lot of their CC that they would use um, gets jammed up with having too many skill points that you need to attach to it, or it's like end game of their skill tree. So leveling can be kind of difficult with Ranger. I've done it a lot. I've played Ranger quite a bit. I've been able to kill like 8 of the toads, just cutting them around in a circle, just spamming my AoE abilities. So it's very doable. But you'll have a harder time, especially if you're new to the game. Uh, Mage is quite arguably S plus tier, more likely S tier, and I would say Fighter is technically better than Mage. So yeah, this is a comfortable spot. The one thing you're going to struggle with Mage is just mana. Solo PVE. It's just going to be mana is going to be holding you back, but you do a lot of damage. In terms of gear, whenever you get to you're on parity with the content that you're trying to do, Mage feels very strong. If you're behind on the content you're trying to do, you're gonna have you're gonna have 0 mana. So that's one of the big learning curves with Mage. Rogue, it depends on just how well you are. Uh, Depends on how quickly you learn this class. Arguably, it's S tier because it has a lot of built-in sustain. You can stealth and completely de-aggro off of mobs. You can stealth and sneak past mobs. But it depends on how you play Rogue. It's not as easy to understand as Ranger or Mage or Cleric or even Fighter, Tank, Bard. It's a little bit more complex. Um, but it's not it's not bad. It's not terrible. Summoner is like S tier. We haven't really experienced it on live, but when it comes to the PTR, um, it's arguably S plus tier when it comes to just progressing the game by yourself, playing it by yourself. But I don't really know what's the best place to really put it. But for safety wise, I think I'll put it ahead of both the mage and the fighter, in the S tier, because it's complete self sustain. It has a pet that can tank for it. It's just a lot better than the other two. So yeah, that's if you want to play the game solo and just try it out. You want the strongest classes, there you go. Now let's talk more about group play. Now group play, a lot of the stuff kind of stays the same. Bard stays the same, tank stays the same, even cleric stays the same. You need these three. Summoner is kind of undecided. Um, I think in terms of group PvE content, you just would prefer to have another cleric or another bard, or even another tank or another fighter or another mage. There's nothing that really the summoner does better than any other class, but the summoner can fulfill a lot of different classes. So I'm just going to put in unsure because we just don't know the current state of which it will be released in terms of power level, and also besides PTR, what changes they're going to be making once it actually gets implemented in live. In terms of fighter, very solid in groups, lots of damage. Mage is the exact same thing. I think mage excels better in group play than fighter does because once you get that mana from your bard, you're pumping the damage. You got no restrictors on you whatsoever. In terms of fighter, because it's melee class, you get cleaved a lot by the very thing you're trying to kill. So there is actually, the game comes a little bit harder for you. Instead of a mage, mage is like, okay, I'm gonna press the gas and we're going. Ranger, once you get into a group, mana problems are solved. You arguably are more single target than AoE. Your AoE does kind of suck, except for Scattershot. But your AoE root is clutch because let's say your tank dies, boom, he's dead. And your cleric is trying to res your tank. You can use your root ability to essentially freeze all the minions in place with your big root AoE, and give time for your cleric to revive your tank. So Ranger's very clutch in those situations. So very good for group play. Rogue, I'm a very good, uh, I would say I'm a excellent PvE group rogue. Um, I am the only rogue besides Dolium in my guild that can consistently pull aggro off of my tank, especially one of our very good tanks. Consistently pulled aggro. We have we know the rotation. We have it all figured out with the damage calculation for PV with Rogue. Um, so Rogue can hang. He can do a lot of single target DPS. Now, area DPS he drops significantly. A lot of your area DPS comes down to very few abilities and using a lot of your auto attacks from your weapons, which just can't compete versus fighter or mage or even ranger. So fortunately, when it becomes an AoE fight, you're actually kind of gimping yourself by playing a rogue. Also, in terms of utility, rogue offers a lot of utility. CCs can help your tank with your smoke bombs and stuff like that. Still a very strong class in group play, but most people just can't play the rogue properly to save their life, and they're going to be a hindrance to your team, unless you're an exceptional rogue player, and you know how to do the damage rotation for the rogue. You're screwed. You are screwed. You're always going to be picked over all these other classes. And then with the summoner, uh, in group play, arguably the summoner is better than the rogue. So like that's why I say summoner should be S tier, just to bring it back to the summoner. So yeah, that's it for the group PvE. Now let's talk about PvP in general. Now in general with PvP, kind of let me kind of looking like this. There's a little bit of change up in PvP. And the reason why is that in PvP, this is where as a cleric you're getting stressed out. You got to track your allies health bar, you have to position correctly. You're going to have a bunch of rogues and fighters trying to hop on your tail, and tanks hop on your tail and disrupt you and make a super pain point for you to try and heal. So a lot of skill expression with the cleric happens in like small scale PvP. Large scale PvE, it's a lot easier. You can play with your team. You can heal a lot, but if like the enemy team in large scale decides to hard dive your team, then you have to play it properly, and you have to play it correctly to save a lot of your allies while running for your life and kiting. So because of that, I have to slightly put it down below Bard and Tank, because Bard and Tank, Bard, you need the mana. It is the most basic win condition. Do they have Bards? No, they're going to lose. Um, Tank, you can pull people into your group. You can wall people off after you pull them. You can even wall people off when they attempt to dive and divide their team. Tank is just too strong with its utility that it can provide. Now let's talk about the other classes. Mage is your default damage dealer in large scale, small scale, and it's just too good in PvP. 1v1s is a whole different. Actually, before I go into that, when it comes to 1v1s, I'm not going to really cover too much, but I will at the end of it say how people dominate and work out 1v1s. I don't want to confuse people right now, so we're talking about like large scale and small scale PvP. Um, Default the best DPS for both large scale and small scale PvP. Very solid class, very easy to play and learn. Um, it's group content, so you never have to worry about mana as long as you have a bard, stuff like that. Ranger, very strong. The AoE root is your big shiny point. Half the reason you're in S tier is because of just that one ability. And it's also range DPS too, so you can chill beside your clerics and your mages, and you can contribute a lot of range DPS. Fighters, it's skill diff, but a lot of times they're just bad. Rogues, it's skill diff, but a lot of times they're just bad. And summoners may potentially be S tier. But we'll have to see. Now, talking about fighter and rogue, when it comes to like 5v5, 5v4, 3v3, 2v2, rogue is king. Rogue is like S plus, S tier. If you're very good at rogue. If you're not very good at rogue, you're going to be B tier. So it's all skill diff for rogue. It really is. Now with fighter, it's similar: 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 5v5. You can be S tier or S tier if you're very good at fighter. But most of the time, especially in large scale, you're in B tier. Most of the time, especially in large scale, you're slightly better than fighter, but you're in B tier. And that's just because you have very limited play and what you contribute to the group. And a lot of the times, you typically shine in the smaller 5v5 and below skirmish style. You can still excel in like 8v8s and 7v7s and 6v6s. But that's the switching point of when you really that extra man can really either prevent you from doing your job, CCing you out, and DPSing you out. So that's why they're both in B tier. Now, when we talk about actually no, rogue should be in skill diff. If fighter should be skill diff. They both should be skill diff. They're not both bad. Um, but in general, in the larger stuff, they're both bad. But it's is skill reliant. But now let's talk about like 1v1s in general. Now 1v1s in general, it's kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie. It pretty much looks like this. I'm not even gonna waste your guys' time. Boom, boom, boom into fighter. Actually, no. Fire goes here. Mage goes there. Uh, boom, boom, and unsure. So when it comes to 1v1 PvP, Bard and Rogue are just too good. They both can dictate the tempo of a fight. They can soft reset. They can hard reset. They have a lot of utility, good to sustain. And if like a good rogue player fights a good tank, and they're both at equal skill level, the rogue player should be able to beat the tank. Same thing with the bard should be able to beat the tank, and the tank would be the hardest matchup versus these two. Mage can counter tank pretty easily, but a good tank can fight a good mage and still win. and vice versa. It's a little bit more of a coin flip. Fighter, cleric, and ranger, it comes down to the skill level of the person. Fighter can get countered by tank. Fighter can get uh, burst down by mage. Fighter can get CC chained by rogue. Fighter can get out sustained and out positioned by bard easily. Uh, Now, fighter can beat up on a cleric. Fighter can beat up on a ranger very easily, even at equal skill level. Cleric can hold his own versus all these classes, uh, but will suffer the most versus a rogue and suffer the most versus a bard. But a cleric, if it has good gear, good skill, you can drag out that fight for a very long time. And then it really comes down to who's going to run out of mana first. Um, but yes, you tend to struggle, and it's a huge skill diff. Ranger, you're going to run out of mana too quick, and you don't have that much in your kit to really save your butt once you use them. So if you burn your same thing as mage, like mage, you have like two abilities. If you burn them, you're dead in the water. Same thing with ranger. The only difference is that mage just has so much damage that you have to respect it. Ranger does have a lot of damage, but it's not as bursty as the mage. And some of its damage that does a lot of some of its damage that's big burst slows you down or essentially locks you in place for you to do your damage, which is very bad at 1v1s. So yeah, and then summoners we don't really know. That's the simple gist of 1v1 meta.